10. You feel your eyelids become heavy. 9. Your shoulders relax, releasing built-up tension. 8. Your breathing becomes deeper and more leisurely. 7. Your arms and legs feel lighter and lighter. 6. The sounds around you begin to drift away. 5. A sense of calm invades your body. 4. Your mind clears of worries. 3. You are immersed in a state of absolute tranquility. 2. You're about to embark on an extraordinary journey. 1. Now you're completely relaxed, ready to hear this story. You've been living in Rome for 3 years, but you've never visited the Vatican. It seems absurd even to you, an artist who came to Italy looking for inspiration. The apartment you rent in Trastevere is small but bright, with a window overlooking a square where the elderly play cards every afternoon. Your canvases pile up in the corners, most of them blank or with abandoned strokes. You haven't finished anything for 6 months. Creative block haunts you like a lingering shadow that spreads further with each passing day. This morning, while brewing a coffee that smelled of earth and promise, you decided that enough was enough. If living in Rome doesn't inspire you, perhaps you need a direct encounter with the master. The May heat hits your skin as you walk through the cobblestone streets. Your light dress sticks to your back and the sandals start to rub uncomfortably against your heels. Tourists crowd every corner with their ridiculous hats and water bottles. You feel strange being one of them today when you normally observe them from a distance, drawing their silhouettes in your notebook while having breakfast on a terrace. Sweat drips down the back of your neck and fades down your back as you approach Bernini's towering colonnade. The queue to enter winds like a live animal under the inclement sun. The wait is endless. 2 hours under the sun that seems like 10. You watch an Italian family argue animatedly. The father gestures with his hands while the mother adjusts the hat of a little girl who licks an ice cream that melts on her finger. The smell of sunscreen, sweat, and cheap perfume forms a mixture that makes you slightly dizzy. Finally, you go through the security checks. The change in temperature is immediate. The freshness of marble and stone envelops you like a balm. Your eyes take time to adjust to the gloom inside after the blinding Mediterranean. The Vatican Museum are a labyrinth of beauty that overwhelms you. You move slowly, stopping at each work that captures your attention. Your fingers tingle with the desire to hold a charcoal, to capture some of this grandeur in your own notebook. It's a feeling you haven't experienced for months, and you acknowledge it with a mixture of relief and anxiety. You stop in front of a marble bust, observing how the sculptor managed to bring the stone to life, how he captured the subject's pensive gaze. A guard signals you to keep moving forward. The flow of visitors is constant, relentless as a river. You follow the marked route, passing through rooms and more rooms. Your feet begin to protest, but your mind is too stimulated to pay attention to them. You hear snippets of explanations in different languages, tour guides reciting memorized facts. You move away from groups, looking for your own rhythm. In one of the less crowded rooms, you stop in front of a preparatory drawing attributed to Raphael. The line is so secure, so precise. How did you achieve that confidence in the line? Your own work suddenly seems childish, clumsy. Insecurity takes over you again as you continue on your way. And then, almost without realizing it, you enter the Cappella Sistina. The impact is physical, as if someone had hit your chest. You stand still, your mouth slightly open, as your eyes try to absorb the immensity of what they see. The ceiling stretches over you like a parallel universe, populated by figures that seem to breathe, move, talk to each other. Adam's creation calls you like a magnet. You observe the space between the fingers of God and Adam, that little void that contains all the tension and mystery of existence. A chill runs down your spine, despite the heat generated by the bodies cramped in the room. Guards monotonously repeat, "No photo, no photo," as disobedient tourists sneakily try to capture images with their phones. You have no interest in photographing anything. You know that no image could capture what you're feeling. You move slowly, with your head tilted back until your neck hurts. You imagine Michelangelo lying on the scaffolding, day after day, year after year, painting this miracle. The dust of the pigments in his eyes, the pain in his muscles, the vision that only he could see until he captured it for all to contemplate. What would it be like to be here 500 years ago, to see him work, to hear his curses when something didn't go the way he wanted? You find a small space next to a wall and lean against it, allowing you to absorb everything. You close your eyes for a moment, trying to record every detail in your memory. When you open them again, it seems to you that the figures have changed position slightly, as if they were alive and moving when no one is looking at them. You know it's a trick of your tired mind, but the thought makes you smile. You stay there until a guard kindly instructs you to keep moving forward. Reluctantly, you leave the chapel, casting one last glance at the ceiling. I'll be back, you silently promise. The rest of the visit passes as if in a dream. Your mind is still in the Sistine Chapel, reliving every inch of those paintings. When you finally step outside, the sun is starting to go down. St. Peter's Square stretches out before you, its colonnade embracing visitors like welcoming arms. You sit on the steps, watching people go by. You pull out your sketchbook, and for the first time in months, start drawing without thinking, without judging. You don't try to recreate what you've seen. You simply let your hand move across the paper, capturing the energy you feel pulsating within you. The road back to your apartment is long. You decide to do it on foot, needing time to process everything you've experienced. Rome is transformed by the light of the sunset. The buildings take on a golden hue that makes them look unreal. You cross the Tiber, while the sky is dyed orange and pink. The reflections in the water remind you of the clouds painted by Michelangelo, those solid masses that seem to hold the prophets and the sibyls. Your mind keeps jumping between the present and the past, imagining what this same city would have been like 5 centuries ago. You arrive at your apartment when it's already dark. Tiredness weighs on your bones, but your mind is still active, restless. You prepare a simple dinner, pasta with a little olive oil and Parmesan cheese. The simple taste comforts you as you mentally review the images of the day. After eating, you sit in front of your empty easel. You try to start something new, inspired by what you've seen, but the tiredness is too intense. Your eyelids close involuntarily. You decide that it is better to rest and let everything you have experienced settle inside you. Your bed welcomes you with its familiar comfort. Through the open window, the night breeze enters, bringing with it the sounds of Rome, distant conversations, the occasional honk of a car, the clinking of dishes in the restaurant on the corner. You wrap yourself in the fresh sheets and close your eyes. Sleep comes quickly, dragging you down like a powerful current. Your last conscious thought is for Michelangelo and his impossible ceiling. The dream begins subtly. You are walking the streets of Rome, but something is different. The buildings seem lower, the streets narrower and dirtier. The smell is the first thing you notice, a mixture of droppings, rotting food, and wood smoke. There are no cars, no traffic lights, no illuminated signs. The people around you dress strangely, men in leggings and doublets, women in long dresses, and their hair pulled back under caps. No one seems to notice your presence or your modern clothes. You walk like a ghost among them, observing with amazement this Rome that you recognize and do not know at the same time. Your feet instinctively carry you towards the Vatican. The road is different, longer, and more complicated. Where the large square designed by Bernini should be, you find a space under construction. The basilica is half finished, with scaffolding rising into the sky like wooden skeleton. Groups of workers carry huge blocks of stone, while others mix mortar in large buckets. The sound of hammers and chisels fills the air. You realize, with a startle that shakes your stomach, that you are watching the construction of San Pedro in the 16th century. It is not an ordinary dream. It's so vivid that you can feel the construction dust in your throat, the warmth of the sun on your skin. You make your way through the crowd of workers and pilgrims. No one stops you or questions you. It's as if you're invisible or as if you belong to this place and time. Following an impulse you don't fully understand, you head toward where you know the Sistine Chapel is. The exterior building is recognizable, although the setting is completely different. The door is ajar, and after a moment's hesitation, you gently push it open. The interior is dimly lit only by a few tall windows and a few torches, and there, rising towards the roof, there is a complex system of wooden scaffolding that covers almost the entire chapel. Your heart beats pounding when you hear voices coming from above. They are male voices, arguing in an old Italian that, surprisingly, you can understand. Cautiously, you begin to climb up the wooden structure. The steps creak under your weight, but the noise of the argument covers any sound you might make. As you ascend, the smell of fresh paint becomes more intense. Mineral pigments, oils, the powder of fresh lime. It's a smell you know well from your own studio, but more raw, more primal. Finally, you get to the top platform, crouching down so as not to hit your head. You move slowly until you can see two men. One is young, clearly an apprentice or helper. The other is a middle-aged man with a graying beard and paint-stained hands. He's with his back to you, working furiously on a fragment of the ceiling. Their movements are fast, sure, almost violent in their intensity. The young man holds a palette with pigments and observes the master with a mixture of admiration and fear. You hold your breath, aware that you are witnessing something extraordinary. Michelangelo Buonarroti painting the Sistine Chapel. You stand still, hypnotized by the scene. The apprentice says something about the hour and the light that is running out, but Michelangelo dismisses him with a brusque gesture. Go if you want. I'll continue a little longer. The young man doesn't need to be told twice. He picks up some materials and quickly descends the scaffolding, leaving the master alone, or almost alone, because you are still there, watching in silence. Michelangelo mutters to himself as he works, curses mixed with prayers, complaints about Pope Julius and his impatience. His fingers move with astonishing precision, bringing to life a prophet whose name you can't remember. You don't know how long you stay like this, watching the miracle of creation. Finally, Michelangelo stops, stretching his back with a groan of pain. He turns to pick up a rag and sees you. Her eyes, dark and piercing, are fixed on yours. He doesn't seem scared or surprised, just slightly irritated by the interruption. Who are you? Does Bramante send you to spy on me? His voice is deep, rough, with a strong Tuscan accent. You are speechless, unable to believe that this is really happening. He observes you more closely, noticing your strange clothes, your expression of amazement. You're not from here, he finally says. It's not a question. I'm an artist. You finally manage to say in an Italian that comes out of your mouth with surprising fluency. I come from very far away. Michelangelo lets out a dry, humorless laugh. A woman artist. Interesting. He wipes his hands on the cloth, leaving stains of blue and ochre. Well, since you're here, you can make yourself useful. Hold this. He hands you a charcoal and a piece of paper. Draw what you see. It's an order, not a suggestion. With trembling hands, you take the materials. Charcoal feels strangely familiar, and yet different, thicker, more irregular than the ones you usually use. You start drawing, unsure at first, but soon you get lost in the familiar act of drawing lines on paper. The paper is rough, handmade, with a texture you've never experienced. Charcoal leaves intense, almost aggressive marks. You draw Michelangelo at work, trying to capture the tension in his shoulders, the concentration in his profile. He ignores you for a while, going back to his work on the roof. The silence between you is filled with the soft sound of charcoal against paper, of brush against fresh plaster. It is a silence of shared creation, strangely intimate. After what could be minutes or hours, Michelangelo comes over to look at your drawing. Their closeness makes you nervous. You can smell the sweat on their clothes, the flaxseed oil on their hands, a faint scent of wine on their breath. Study your work with critical, professional eyes. Not bad, he finally says, and you feel like it's the greatest compliment he could give. You have a good eye for light, but your line is insecure. You doubt too much. He takes the charcoal from your hands, his fingers brushing against yours briefly. On the same paper, start drawing lines next to your drawing, showing you how to best capture the human form. His strokes are firm, determined, without hesitation. It all starts with drawing, he says as he works. The color, the composition, all that comes later. If you can't draw properly, you can't paint. Many young people want to jump straight into brushes and bright colors. They want to imitate Raphael and his beautiful Madonnas, spit out the word pretty as if it's an insult. But without the foundation of drawing, everything is superficial, soulless. His words resonate within you. Isn't that exactly what you've been doing? Looking for effects, immediate results, without spending time on the fundamentals. You feel embarrassed, and at the same time, grateful for the lesson. Michelangelo continues to draw and talk, as if he has been waiting for someone to share his thoughts with. He tells you about his frustrations with this papal commission that keeps him away from his true passion, sculpture. Painting is for lazy women and men, he says, and then looks at you with a half smile. No offense. You can't help but smile at the irony that the creator of one of the greatest works of painting in history despises the medium so much. It tells you about the marble, about how the figure is already inside the block, waiting to be released. His hands move as he speaks, as if he were sculpting the air. The light begins to change. The sunset dyes the chapel in golden tones that enter through the high windows. Michelangelo sighs, putting down the charcoal. It's over for today. My eyes no longer distinguish colors. It stretches again, and you can hear the cracking of its bones. I've been up here too long. This roof will kill me before I finish it. There is resignation in his voice, but also determination. He stares at his work, evaluating it with a critical eye. Sometimes I think I'm crazy to take on this assignment. Other times, his voice is muffled, and his eyes take on a distant gaze. Other times I feel like it's the only thing that matters. You remain silent, not knowing what to say. What words could you offer to this tormented genius? Finally, gathering courage, you ask, how do you do it? How do you keep inspiration alive day after day, year after year? Michelangelo looks at you as if the question is strange. It's not about inspiration, girl. It's all about work. Inspiration is for poets and dreamers. Art is sweat, back pain, and irritated eyes. He pauses, considering something. But there are moments when everything disappears. The pain, the tiredness, even the time. There are only my hand, the tool, and the work. In those moments, perhaps, there is more than work. His words move you deeply. You recognize that feeling it describes, those rare and precious moments of flow that you have experienced in your own work, moments you've been desperately searching for during these months of lockdown. Art is like a flame, Michelangelo continued, picking up his tools. It needs to be fed constantly. A day without drawing is a day lost. The hand forgets, the eyes become lazy. He looks directly at you, and you feel that he can see right through you, even your frustrated artist's soul. How long have you not fueled your flame? The question hits you like a slap. How much time have you spent lamenting your block instead of working through it? How many days have you wasted waiting for inspiration to magically come? You lower your gaze, unable to sustain the intensity of his eye. Too much, you finally admit. Michelangelo nods as if he already knows the answer. Then you know what to do. Draw every day. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Just draw. He bends down and picks up something from the ground. It's a piece of charcoal, bigger and coarser than the one you've been using. Here, he says, extending it to you. To remember you. You accept the gift with trembling hands, aware of its meaning. It is more than a lump of coal. It is a reminder, a talisman, a connection to this impossible moment. Thank you, you murmur, closing your fingers around the charcoal. You feel its rough texture, its light but significant weight. Michelangelo makes a farewell gesture with his hand, as if he is used to strangers appearing and disappearing in his life. Go and draw, he says simply. The rest will come by itself. You are about to descend from the scaffolding, but something stops you. Master, you say, turning to him. His work, it will endure. It will be loved and admired for centuries. The words come out of your mouth before you can consider them. Michelangelo looks at you with an indecipherable expression. For a moment, it looks like he's going to say something, but then he just nods. Goodbye, strange artist, he finally says. May God guide your hand. You turn around and start to go down. feeling each step take you away from not only Michelangelo, but also from this moment outside of time. When you reach the floor of the chapel, everything begins to blur. The walls become blurred, the sounds fade. You feel a heaviness in your eyelids, an irresistible tug toward unconsciousness. You try to hold on to the charcoal in your hand, afraid of losing it in this transition. The last thing you see before it all fades away is the distant figure of Michelangelo, bent over his work, eternally captured in the act of creation. You wake up with a start, the light of the Roman morning coming through your window. For a moment, you feel disoriented, caught between two worlds. The dream was so vivid, so real, that you can almost still smell the pigments and fresh plaster. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes. It was just a dream, you tell yourself. An extraordinarily detailed dream, but a dream nonetheless. Inspired, no doubt, by your visit to the Vatican the day before. You sigh, feeling a strange mixture of disappointment and relief as you return to reality. That's when you notice it, something on your bedside table that wasn't there when you went to bed. You lean closer, incredulous. It's a piece of charcoal, thick and coarse, unlike any you've ever bought. You take it with trembling fingers, feeling its rough texture, its light but significant weight, exactly as you remembered it from the dream. A shiver runs down your spine as you hold it, unable to explain its presence. It could be, no, it's impossible. And yet, there it is, tangible and real in your hand. You get out of bed, carrying the charcoal with you like a fragile treasure. You head to your workspace, where blank canvases and abandoned sketches have been waiting for you for months. Without thinking too much, you take a sketchbook and sit down. Michelangelo's words resonate in your mind. It all starts with drawing. Art is like a flame that needs to be constantly fed. You squeeze the charcoal between your fingers and start drawing lines on the paper. You don't think about results or technique or even what you're drawing. You just let your hand move. Hours pass without you noticing them. The sun changes position, casting different shadows across your apartment. You don't stop to eat or drink. You are completely absorbed in the act of drawing, in the sensation of charcoal gliding over the paper, in the shapes that emerge under your hand. You draw faces, bodies, buildings, everyday objects. Some pages are full of abstract line, pure expression of movement and energy. Others contain detailed studies of your own hands, of the view from your window, of memories, of the Sistine Chapel. When you finally stop, the sun is starting to set. Your fingers and back hurt. You're hungry and thirsty, but you feel more alive than you have in months. You look at the drawings scattered around you. Not all of them are good. Some are clumsy, hasty, disproportionate, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you have created, you have worked, you have fed the flame, and in some of them, in the safest strokes, in the subtlest shadows, you can see something new emerging, a confidence that wasn't there before. One address. The charcoal piece has been considerably reduced after hours of use. You hold it between your fingers, this impossible souvenir of a dream that could not have been just a dream. You don't try to explain it. Some things are beyond rational explanation. Instead, you carefully keep it in a small box that you use for your treasures, a perfect shell from the beach of Ostia, a ticket from your first trip to Italy, a particularly beautiful autumn leaf that you found at Villa Borghese. Now, this fragment of charcoal, this gift from Michelangelo, joins them. You prepare yourself a simple meal, suddenly aware of your voracious hunger. As you eat, you look at the drawings again, evaluating them with more critical but also kinder eyes. You see mistakes, of course, but also possibilities, ideas that could be developed, techniques that you could explore, topics that you would like to delve into. For the first time in a long time, you're excited about the idea of working tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and every day after that. The blockade has not completely disappeared. You know there will be tough days ahead, but now you have something you've been missing, a purpose, a direction, a reminder of why you started this path in the first place. That night, before bed, you place a blank canvas on your easel. You stare at it for a long time, without fear, without anxiety, just in anticipation. Tomorrow you'll start painting again. You don't know exactly what, but that doesn't matter now. As Michelangelo said, it all starts with drawing. The rest will come by itself. You go to bed with a smile on your lips, feeling that you have received a priceless gift, not only charcoal, but wisdom, the connection with a master through time, the reaffirmation of your own artistic path. As you slip into sleep, you imagine Michelangelo still there, on his scaffolding, painting eternally. Perhaps on some level that we can't comprehend, he's still there. And perhaps, in some mysterious way, your brief encounter was as real to him as it was to you. A moment of connection between two artists separated by centuries, but united by the same struggle, the same passion, the same creative fire that is never completely extinguished. With that comforting thought, you abandon yourself to sleep, ready to wake up to a new day of possibilities. The next morning, you wake up with an energy you haven't felt in months. The Roman sun streams in through your window, illuminating the dust particles that dance in the air like tiny stars. You stretch your muscles, noticing a pleasant pain in your fingers and wrists, testament to the hours of drawing the day before. Michelangelo's charcoal rests in its small box, a tangible reminder that something extraordinary has happened. You get up and walk barefoot on the terracotta floor, feeling its freshness against your plants. In the kitchen, you brew a strong espresso in your old Italian coffee maker, inhaling the intense aroma that fills the small apartment. As the coffee rises, you look out the window. Rome is waking up. Shopkeepers raise their metal shutters. Old people walk slowly to cafes. Early risers consult their maps with confused expressions. Hot coffee travels down your throat, waking up every cell in your body. Today will be different. You know that. You take the coffee with you to your workspace and look at the blank canvas you laid out last night. It doesn't intimidate you anymore. It is an invitation, not a challenge. You take one of the sketches you made yesterday, one that captures a fragment of your dream. Michelangelo, leaning over his work, with the tension visible on his shoulders, the absolute concentration on his profile. It is not an exact reproduction of the Sistine Chapel. It is your personal interpretation of that impossible moment that you shared with the master. You place the sketch in a visible place and begin preparing your materials. The smell of linseed oil and pigments envelops you, familiar and comforting, like the embrace of an old friend. The first brushstrokes are tentative, almost timid, but soon you find your rhythm, that flow you've missed for so long. The canvas begins to come to life under your hands. You're not just painting Michelangelo, you are painting the golden light that came through the tall windows of the chapel, the pigment dust suspended in the air, the rough texture of the wooden scaffolding. You're painting the feeling of being there, in that moment, outside of time. You work nonstop, forgetting to eat, ignoring the phone ringing somewhere in the apartment. The outside world has ceased to exist. There is only you, the canvas, and the vivid memory of your dream. When you finally stop, the sun is starting to set. You've worked all day without being aware of the passage of time. You take a few steps away to contemplate what you have created. It's not finished, of course, but you can already see that it's unlike anything you've painted before. There's an urgency to the brushstrokes, an intensity to the colors, an emotional truth that you hadn't been able to capture before. It's not technically perfect. You can see areas that will need correction, details that you'll need to refine, but there is life in it, a spark that you recognize as authentic. For the first time in a long time, you feel proud of your work. Hunger finally catches up with you, an insistent reminder that you're still human, with basic needs you've ignored for hours. You go out on the street, looking for something to eat. The night air of Rome welcomes you with its characteristic mix of aromas: food, perfume, gasoline, history. You walk to a small trattoria you frequent, where the owner greets you by name. "We haven't seen you for a long time," he exclaims with genuine joy. You sit at an outside table, ordering pasta carbonara and a glass of house red wine. As you wait for your meal, you watch the people passing by, couples holding hands, groups of friends laughing, tourists tired but satisfied after a day of exploring. You feel connected to them, part of the living fabric of this eternal city. The food arrives, simple but perfect. The first bite of pasta makes you moan with pleasure. You hadn't realized how hungry you were. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, allowing yourself to be fully present in this moment. Wine warms your body, relaxing tense muscles from hours of concentration. You think of Michelangelo, of how he must have had moments like this, necessary pauses in his monumental work, small daily pleasures that anchored him to reality. You wonder if he, too, enjoyed a simple meal after a day's painting, if wine relieved his pains, if conversations with friends temporarily distracted him from the enormity of his task. After dinner, you take a stroll through the illuminated streets of Trastevere. The night is warm, full of music that escapes from the bars and restaurants. You feel light, almost floating. The blockage that had paralyzed you for months seems like a distant memory, like an illness from which you have finally recovered. You know that it will not always be like this, that there will be difficult days ahead. But now, you have something you've been missing, a renewed connection to your purpose, a reminder of why you chose this path. And you have Michelangelo's words echoing in your mind. It all starts with drawing. Art is like a flame that needs to be constantly fed. Back in your apartment, you feel tired but satisfied. Before going to bed, you stop in front of the canvas you have worked on today. In the semi-darkness, it seems almost finished, the imperfections softened by the dim light. Tomorrow, you'll see the flaws clearly, but that's okay. Tomorrow you will continue to work, correct, improve. It is a process, not a destination. You go to bed with that comforting understanding, feeling that you have rediscovered something essential that you had forgotten. Sleep comes quickly, deep, and restorative, with no visits from Renaissance masters this time. The following days set a new rhythm in your life. You get up early, have a quick breakfast, and get to work. You alternate between drawing and painting, remembering Michelangelo's advice on the importance of fundamentals. Sometimes you go out to draw outdoors, in the Roman Forum, in Villa Borghese, in small squares where local people gather. Other times, you work in your apartment, developing ideas, experimenting with techniques. The canvas inspired by your dream advances slowly, gaining depth and detail with each session. Don't rush. You feel that this work deserves time, attention, respect. A week after your visit to the Vatican and your extraordinary dream, you decide to return to the Sistine Chapel. This time, you arrive early, before the crowds get too dense. You pay the entrance fee and head straight there, ignoring the other wonders of the museum. When you enter the chapel, the experience is different. You are no longer overwhelmed by greatness. Now you observe with the eyes of an artist, noticing technical details, compositional decisions, ingenious solutions to pictorial problems. Your dream has given you a personal connection to this work, an intimacy that allows you to see it differently. You sit on a bench against the wall, ignoring the guards, who normally insist that visitors keep moving. You've brought a small sketchbook hidden in your bag. Discreetly, you begin to draw fragments of the ceiling, an outstretched arm, a foreshortened face, a fold of fabric. You're not copying, you're studying, learning, absorbing the lessons that Michelangelo left for future artists. You work quickly, with safe and precise strokes. Your hand remembers the feeling of the charcoal he gave you, even though today you're using a modern pencil. From time to time, you look around, half expecting to see the master appear among the tourists with his graying beard and his hands stained with paint. Of course, that doesn't happen. Michelangelo belongs to another time, a time that you could only access through that strange dream that was more than a dream. But his presence is here, in every inch of this impossible ceiling, in every figure that seems to breathe and move when no one is looking. After 2 hours of intense drawing, you close your notebook and get up. Before leaving, you look up one last time towards the creation of Adam. Thank you, you murmur, not only to the painting, but to the man behind it, to the artist who somehow spanned the centuries to give you the advice you needed exactly when you needed it. Days turn into weeks, and your work continues to evolve. The canvas inspired by your dream is finally finished, and you've started other projects. Some are direct studies of Rome, streets at dawn, when the light is golden and the shadows are long, old people playing cards in the square, the contrast between the ancient ruins and the modern life that flows around them. Others are more personal, explorations of themes that interest you, the connection between past and present, the nature of time, the experience of being a foreigner in a city that simultaneously welcomes you and keeps you at a distance. One afternoon, while working in your apartment, you hear a knock on the door. It's your neighbor, an older woman named Sophia, who lives down the hall. You've greeted her occasionally, but you've never had a real conversation. She smiles shyly at you, explaining in quick Italian that she's organizing a small exhibition at a local gallery where her niece works. He's seen your canvases as you walk down the hallway with them, and he's wondering if you'd be interested in participating. You are momentarily speechless, surprised by the unexpected offer. Finally, you nod, inviting her in so she can see your work more closely. Sophia enters your apartment with polite curiosity, her eyes adjusting to the light of the study. When he sees Michelangelo's canvas working in the Sistine Chapel, he stops in his tracks. Questo, he begins, searching for the words. Questo è speciale. He gets closer, studying the details, the golden light, the dust in the air, the concentration on the master's face. She is not an art expert. He works as an accountant in a small family business, but his reaction is genuine, emotional. He tells you that his grandfather was an art restorer and worked in the Sistine Chapel during the 80s. He always said he could feel Michelangelo looking over his shoulder, judging his work, he says, laughing softly. In your painting, I can understand what he meant. The exhibition opens 3 weeks later in a small gallery near Campo dei Fiori. It's a modest but charming space with white walls and antique wooden floors. Your work is exhibited alongside that of 4 other artists, most of them local. You've included 5 pieces: Michelangelo's canvas, 2 cityscapes of Rome, and 2 more abstract works inspired by your experience. On opening night, you're nervous, unsure of how your work will be received. You dress carefully, a simple but elegant dress. The necklace your mother gave you before you came to Italy. Comfortable shoes because you know you'll be on your feet for hours. The gallery fills up quickly. Friends and family of the artists, local collectors, curious tourists who saw the posters on the street. Sophia introduces you to dozens of people, talking about your work with an enthusiasm that makes you blush. You watch in awe as visitors stop in front of your paintings, leaning over to see the details, arguing with each other, pointing out aspects that you are surprised they notice. An old woman stands in front of Michelangelo's canvas for a long time, so motionless that you worry that she will feel bad. When he finally walks away, you can see that he has tears in his eyes. Towards the end of the night, a middle-aged man with thick-rimmed glasses approaches you. He presents himself as the curator of a larger gallery in the center of Rome. He has been observing your work during the evening and is impressed, especially with Michelangelo's canvas. There's something about it, he says in careful Italian, something I can't explain exactly, an authenticity, a connection to the past that is very rare. He offers you his card, suggesting that he would like to include some of your works in a group exhibition he is organizing for next month. The theme is Dialogues Through Time, contemporary artists in conversation with masters of the past. Your job would be a perfect fit, he says with a smile. You return to your apartment late, exhausted but euphoric. The night has been a success beyond your expectations. You've sold 2 paintings, received an offer to participate in another exhibition, and heard comments that have touched you deeply. You take off your shoes with a sigh of relief and pour yourself a small glass of wine to celebrate. Sitting by the open window, listening to the nightly sounds of Rome, you think of the strange path that has brought you here. Just a month ago, you were stuck in a creative block that seemed to have no end. Now, your work is being seen, appreciated, bought, and it all started with a visit to the Vatican and an extraordinary dream. Before going to bed, you open the small box where you keep Michelangelo's charcoal. You take it carefully, feeling its weight and texture. It has become smaller with use. You've used it to start each new drawing as a personal ritual, a connection to the teacher who gave you the advice you needed. It all starts with drawing, you murmur, repeating his words. You wonder what he would think of your modest but significant success. He would probably shrug his shoulders with that characteristic indifference of his, saying something about how true art doesn't seek applause. You smile at the mental image, putting the charcoal back in its box. Tomorrow will be another day of work, another day to feed the flame. The group exhibition in the largest gallery is a new milestone in your career. Your work is exhibited alongside that of established artists, some with decades of experience. The curator has placed your Michelangelo canvas in a prominent place, perfectly lit to highlight the contrasts of light and shadow. In the exhibition catalog, he writes about your extraordinary ability to make the past breathe into the present, about how your work does not imitate the masters, but dialogues with them on terms of equality. You read his words with a mixture of pride and disbelief. Is it really your work that you are describing so eloquently? Opening night is glamorous, very different from Sophia's small gallery. There are photographers, art critics, wealthy collectors with glasses of champagne in hand. You feel out of place in your simple dress and comfortable shoes, but the curator assures you that you fit perfectly. Artists don't need to dress like bankers, he says with a wink. It introduces you to influential people in the Roman art world, people who could open doors for you. You try to remember names, exchange cards, have intelligent conversations about contemporary art. It's exhausting, but exciting, as if you've entered a new and unfamiliar world. An art critic for a major newspaper pauses in front of your canvas for what seems like an eternity. He takes notes in a small notebook, occasionally shaking his head or nodding to himself. Finally, he approaches you, introducing himself with a firm handshake. His work intrigues me, he says, without preamble. There's something about him that I can't immediately identify, and that's rare these days. Most contemporary art is so, obviously, he grimaces, as if the word leaves a bad taste in his mouth. But his has layers, mystery, especially this piece. He points to Michelangelo's canvas. May I ask you what inspired you? What can you tell him? That you dreamed that you were traveling back in time and meeting Michelangelo? What did a piece of charcoal give you that somehow crossed the barrier between dream and reality? You opt for a more conventional version of the truth. I visited the Sistine Chapel during a period of creative block, you explain. I was fascinated imagining Michelangelo working there day after day, year after year. That night I had a very vivid dream about him, and when I woke up, I felt a connection that I can't fully explain. This painting was my attempt to capture that connection. The critic nods slowly, seemingly satisfied with your answer. Great artists speak to us through time, he says. Some of us are lucky enough to hear them. In the days following the exhibition, your life changes in ways you never would have anticipated. The critic who interviewed you publishes a glowing review in the newspaper describing your work as a rare combination of classical technique and contemporary sensibility. He specifically mentions Michelangelo's canvas, calling it a window through time that allows the viewer to feel present at a crucial historical moment. The review attracts more visitors to the gallery, many of whom come specifically to see your work. The curator calls you excitedly to inform you that 2 of your paintings have been sold to major collectors. You feel overwhelmed by sudden attention. Your phone rings constantly. Gallerists interested in your work, journalists who want to interview you, other artists looking for collaboration. An art magazine asks you for an article about your creative process and your relationship with the masters of the Renaissance. A professor from the Academy of Fine Arts invites you to give a talk to his students. It's everything you'd dreamed of when you came to Rome, and yet you feel strangely disconnected from this success, as if it's happening to someone else. In moments of calm, you wonder if you really deserve it, if it's not all the result of an impossible encounter that you can't explain even to yourself. One morning, while you're having breakfast in your small kitchen, you get an email that takes your breath away. It is from the Vatican Museums. They have seen your work in the exhibition and are interested in including your Michelangelo canvas in a temporary exhibition on contemporary interpretations of the Renaissance masters. The exhibition will be installed in a room adjacent to the Sistine Chapel, allowing visitors to make direct connections between the original works and their modern echoes. They offer you a considerable sum for the loan of the painting for 6 months. You read the email 3 times, unable to believe what you're seeing. Your painting, inspired by an impossible dream, exhibited in the Vatican a few meters from the masterpiece that inspired it. You respond by accepting the offer, fingers trembling on the keyboard. Afterwards, you stare out the window for a long time, watching the daily life of Rome unfold in the square. An elderly couple walks slowly, arm in arm. A group of children run by, their laughter bouncing between the old buildings. A stray cat stretches lazily in the sun. The normality of these scenes anchors you, reminds you that you are still the same person, despite the extraordinary events that have transformed your life. You decide to go for a walk, needing fresh air and the feeling of movement to process everything that is happening. Your steps take you, almost unconsciously, towards the Vatican. You don't go in, you just walk around St. Peter's Square, watching the tourists, the pilgrims, the street vendors. You sit on the steps of the basilica, feeling the warmth of the marble through your clothes. From here, you can see the window where the Pope appears on Sundays to bless the crowd. You wonder what Michelangelo would think of modern Rome, of how his work has endured and continues to move millions of people every year. Would you be satisfied, surprised, or would you just shrug those mighty shoulders, considering it all part of the job you were hired to do? A group of school children walk past you, following a guide holding a colorful umbrella aloft. He speaks in fast Italian, pointing out architectural details that the children barely look at, more interested in pushing each other and laughing. They remind you of yourself as a child on your first visit to a museum. You didn't really understand what you were seeing, but you felt the importance, the solemnity of the place. It was there, in front of a painting whose name you have forgotten, where you decided that you wanted to be an artist. A seed moment planted deeply that has blossomed in ways you could never have foreseen. You return to your apartment as the sun begins to set, bathing Rome in that golden glow that painters have tried to capture for centuries. You feel more centered, more at peace with the changes in your life. In your studio, you look at Michelangelo's canvas that will soon be exhibited in the Vatican. It's strange to think that you'll have to say goodbye to him for 6 months. It has become a constant presence in your life, a daily reminder of your strange experience and the lessons you learned. But you also know it's the right thing to do. Art is not meant to remain hidden. It exists to be seen, to make connections, to inspire others, as you were inspired. The night before you deliver the canvas to the Vatican Museums, you can't sleep. You get up and go to your studio, turning on the lamp that casts a warm light on your work. You observe the painting for the last time in the privacy of your space. You've captured something special in it, something that goes beyond technique or composition. There is an emotional truth, an authenticity that comes from your unique experience. Michelangelo is there, not as a distant historical figure, but as a real man, tired, frustrated, passionate, completely absorbed in his work. And in a way, there's also you in that painting, your wonder, your connection to it, your own journey as an artist. You take the piece of charcoal out of its box, holding it between your fingers. It is very worn now, reduced to a fragment of what it was. You wonder how much longer it will last, if it will disappear completely one day, taking with it the physical proof of your impossible encounter. But even if that happens, its impact will remain. It has changed your art, your career, your whole life. You've learned to feed the flame, to start each day with drawing, to work through blockages instead of surrendering to them. These lessons are Michelangelo's true gift, more valuable than any physical object. The opening ceremony of the exhibition at the Vatican Museums is an elegant yet intimate event. You're surrounded by curators, art historians, other artists whose work is also on display. Your simple black dress makes you feel appropriately professional, even though your heart beats so hard that you're afraid everyone might hear it. The director of the museums gives a brief speech on the importance of dialogue between classical and contemporary art, on how each generation reinterprets the masters through its own cultural lens. When he mentions your name and your work, you feel a blush rise up your neck to your cheeks. This is real. It's really happening. After the speeches, guests tour the exhibition. Your canvas is placed so that, from a certain angle, you can simultaneously see your interpretation of Michelangelo at work and, through a door, a fragment of the actual ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. The effect is powerful, creating exactly the kind of dialogue over time that the curators were looking for. You discreetly observe the reactions of visitors as they contemplate your work. Some nod with professional approval, others seem genuinely moved. An old man stays in front of your canvas for so long that you start to worry. When he finally walks away, he wipes a tear with the back of his hand. A curator approaches you, accompanied by the old man who was observing your painting. "Let me introduce you to Professor Bianchi," says the curator. "He is one of our most respected experts on Michelangelo." The teacher shakes your hand with surprising firmness for someone his age. His eyes, behind thick glasses, study you with intensity. "His painting has moved me deeply," he says, his voice breaking with emotion. "I have spent my life studying Michelangelo, his letters, his drawings, every inch of the Sistine Chapel. And yet, you have captured something that all my years of academic research could not. Your humanity, your struggle, your absolute dedication to art despite physical pain and frustration. You are speechless at this unexpected praise." The professor continues, now more animated. "You know, there is a passage in one of his letters where he describes how he worked until his eyes could no longer distinguish colors, how his back was so deformed that he could not sleep. You have captured precisely that moment, when you are exhausted but cannot stop, when art consumes you completely." You nod, unable to explain that you know that moment because you lived it, because you were there in some impossible way. "I'd like to talk more with you about your creative process," says the professor. "Maybe we could have a coffee one day." You exchange contact information with him, still stunned by the encounter. The exhibition is a resounding success. Over the next few months, you receive regular updates from curators about how your work is being received. Visitors stop in front of it, photograph it, discuss it. Tour guides have incorporated it into their tours, explaining the connection between your contemporary interpretation and the Renaissance masterpiece. One day, you receive an email with a photograph attached that makes you smile. A group of art students sitting in front of your canvas, drawing their own interpretation of your interpretation of Michelangelo. It's a chain of inspiration that stretches through time exactly as it should be. Your meeting with Professor Bianchi turns into an unexpected friendship. At 78, he has the energy and curiosity of someone much younger. He invites you into his apartment, a space crammed with books, manuscripts, and reproductions of Renaissance art. He shows you his personal collection of documents related to Michelangelo, copies of letters, preliminary studies, technical analysis of pigments and techniques. You absorb everything with fascination, finding confirmations of details you know firsthand: the constant pain in the master's back, his preference for certain pigments, his habit of working until the natural light was completely exhausted. One day, while examining a facsimile of one of Michelangelo's preparatory drawings, the professor looks at you with a curious expression. "There's something about the way he looks at these drawings," he finally says, "as if I recognized them, as if I had seen them before." You tense slightly, wondering if you've revealed too much. "I've studied his work a lot," you answer carefully. The professor smiles, a gesture that transforms his austere face into something almost childish. "No, it's more than that. It's like I know him." He pauses, considering his next words. You know, after so many years studying an artist, sometimes I feel like I can hear their voice, that I can guess what they were thinking while they were working. Has it ever happened to you? It's an opportunity to share something of your experience without giving away the impossible. Yes, you admit. When I was painting the canvas that is now in the exhibition, there were moments when I could almost hear it, feel it close, like I'm somehow guiding my hand. The professor nods enthusiastically. Exactly. Great artists never really die, do they? They continue to live through his work, talking to those who are willing to listen. He smiles at you knowingly, as if you were sharing a secret, and in a way it is. As the months go by, your career continues to flourish. The exhibition at the Vatican has given you visibility you never imagined. You receive offers to exhibit in other cities, Florence, Venice, even Paris and New York. Important galleries want to represent you. Collectors are interested in your work. A publisher offers you to publish a book with reproductions of your works and essays about your creative process. It's overwhelming and exciting at the same time. Sometimes you wonder if you deserve all of this, if it's not simply a result of your strange connection with Michelangelo. But in your most honest moments, you recognize that you've worked hard, that you've developed your technique and your vision, that success didn't come by accident, but through dedication and perseverance. One afternoon, while you are working on a new canvas in your studio, the doorbell of your apartment rings. He is a messenger with a package from the Vatican Museums. The exhibition has ended, and they are returning your Michelangelo painting. You sign the receipt and take the carefully packed package to your studio. You open it slowly, eager to see your work after 6 months of separation. When you finally peel back all the protective layers, you're left staring at the canvas with a mixture of familiarity and surprise. It's your painting, exactly as you remembered it, and yet it looks different in some way, more alive, more present, as if she had absorbed something during her stay in the Vatican, so close to the original work that inspired her. You place the canvas on your easel, studying it in the afternoon light that comes through the window of your studio. The colors seem deeper, the brush strokes more confident, or perhaps it is you who has changed in these months, who now sees with different eyes. You've grown as an artist. You've found your voice. You've established your place in the art world. You are no longer the same person who painted this canvas, inspired by an extraordinary dream and guided by the advice of a master through time. You're stronger now, more confident in your path. That night, you celebrate the return of your painting with a small dinner in your apartment. You have invited Sophia, who introduced you to the world of galleries, Professor Bianchi, who has become a mentor and friend, and a couple of artists you've met in the last few months. The conversation flows easily, jumping from art to politics, from history to personal anecdotes. Wine helps, of course, but it's more than that. You have found your community, people who understand your passion, who speak your same language. When the professor proposes a toast to your continued success, you blush, but accept the compliment gracefully. You've learned to receive praise without detracting from it. Another important lesson on your journey. After your guests have left, you stay up for a while longer, enjoying the silence and solitude. You pour yourself a last glass of wine and sit by the open window, listening to the nightly sounds of Rome. The city never sleeps completely. There are always distant conversations, the occasional honk of a car, music escaping from a nearby apartment. You feel part of this place now, connected to its history and its present. You have put down roots here. You have found your place in the long artistic tradition of this eternal city. Your thoughts return, as so many times, to that extraordinary night and the dream that changed your life. Was it really a dream, or was it something else, something that reason cannot explain? Michelangelo's charcoal, now reduced to a small fragment, is still in its box among your treasures. It is the only physical proof that something truly inexplicable happened. Sometimes, in moments of doubt or creative frustration, you hold it between your fingers, remembering the words of the master. It all starts with drawing. Art is like a flame that needs to be constantly fed. You have learned to live with the mystery, to accept that some experiences defy rational explanation. The important thing is not to understand exactly what happened that night, but to honor the gift you received, a connection through time with another artist, a reminder of why you chose this path, a renewed dedication to your craft. Every morning, you start your day with drawing, feeding the flame, as Michelangelo advised. Each night, you review your work with critical but kind eyes, recognizing both accomplishments and areas that need improvement. A year after your visit to the Vatican and your extraordinary dream, you receive an invitation that takes your breath away. The Vatican museums are organizing a special exhibition titled Michelangelo Living Legacy, exploring the master's influence on contemporary artists. They want to include not only your painting of Michelangelo working in the Sistine Chapel, but also commission a new work from you specifically for the exhibition. The letter mentions that your extraordinary ability to establish an authentic dialogue with the past makes you the ideal candidate for this project. They offer you exclusive access to the Sistine Chapel outside visiting hours, so you can work without the distractions of the tourist crowds. You accept the commission with a mixture of enthusiasm and reverential awe. It's an incredible opportunity, an honor you never could have imagined, but you also feel a huge responsibility. What can you create that will live up to this opportunity? How can you honor Michelangelo's legacy without simply imitating him? You spend days pondering these questions, filling pages of your notebook with ideas, sketches, notes. You consult with Professor Bianchi, who offers you historical and technical perspectives, but reminds you that, in the end, the vision must be yours. Michelangelo wouldn't want an imitation, he tells you. He would want something new, something that would carry his legacy forward, not just repeat it. Your first visit to the Sistine Chapel after closing hours is a surreal experience. The security guard escorts you to the entrance and then leaves you alone, explaining that he will be back in 2 hours. Silence is the first thing you notice. During the day, the chapel is filled with murmurs, footsteps, the occasional instructions from the guards asking for silence. Now, there's only the sound of your own breathing and the occasional creak of the old building. The light is different too. Without the crowds, technicians have adjusted the lighting to a lower, more intimate level. The figures on the ceiling seem to move in the shadows, as if they come to life when no one is looking. You sit in the center of the chapel, on the cold marble floor, and simply observe. You have not brought materials to draw. This first visit is just to absorb, to feel, to connect. You rotate slowly, allowing your eyes to move from scene to scene on the ceiling and walls. Without the pressure of crowds, you can take as much time as you need with every image, every detail. You notice things you've never seen before, subtle expressions on the faces, the way the light seems to emanate from within the figures, the incredible variety of postures and gestures Michelangelo managed to create. It's overwhelming and at the same time deeply inspiring. After a while, you close your eyes, allowing the images to continue to resonate in your mind. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you can almost see Michelangelo at work, his figure leaning over the scaffolding, his hand moving with confident precision. You remember his raspy voice, his straightforward advice, his absolute dedication to his art despite the physical pain and frustration. "Are you here?" you whisper in the empty chapel. You don't really expect a response, and yet you feel a presence, a connection that transcends time and space. It is not supernatural. It is the connection that all artists share, the eternal dialogue between creators separated by centuries, but united by the same passion, the same challenge, the same search for beauty and truth. When the guard returns to escort you out, you feel different. It is not only the unique experience of being alone in the Sistine Chapel, it's the clarity you found about your project. You know now what you want to create, not another representation of Michelangelo or his work, but something that captures the essence of creativity itself, the moment of connection between artists through time, a work that speaks of both the past and the present, that invites the viewer to be part of that eternal conversation. In your mind, the image begins to take shape, a canvas divided into two realities, merging in the center, a Renaissance artist's studio, transforming into a contemporary studio, the tools changing, but the process essentially the same. Over the next few weeks, you work tirelessly on your new work. You alternate between sessions in the Sistine Chapel after closing hours and long hours in your own studio. Professor Bianchi provides you with detailed information about the tools and techniques of the Renaissance, helping you to represent them with historical accuracy. You investigate the pigments Michelangelo would have used, the type of scaffolding he built, even the clothes he would have worn while working. Every detail matters. You want the historical half of your canvas to be as authentic as possible, a perfect counterpoint to the contemporary half that represents your own space and process. The job is demanding physically and emotionally. There are days when you doubt yourself, when you fear that you will not be up to the task. In those moments, you pull out Michelangelo's charcoal fragment, now so small you can barely hold it between your fingers. You don't use it to draw. It's too precious, too fragile. But his presence comforts you, reminds you that you have been touched by something extraordinary, that you have a responsibility not only to the curators who commissioned this work from you, but also to the master who, in some impossible way, offered you his advice and encouragement when you needed it most. As the play progresses, you begin to feel that you are creating something truly special. It's not just your technique, which has improved tremendously in the last year. It is the vision, the concept, the emotion that you are managing to convey. On the Renaissance half of the canvas, you've painted a 16th century studio with candlelight, wooden scaffolding, pigments hand ground in stone mortars. In the contemporary half, your own studio with natural light, modern easels, paint tubes sorted by color, and in the center, where the two realities merge, two outstretched hands, one rough, calloused, stained with natural pigments, the other, yours, softer but equally dedicated, with acrylic paint stains under the nails. The hands do not touch, as in the creation of Adam, but between them floats a piece of charcoal, the object that connects both worlds. When you finally finish the painting, you feel a mixture of exhaustion and euphoria. You have put everything of yourself into this work, your technique, your vision, your personal experience, your understanding of the history of art. You stare at her for hours, looking for imperfections, areas that could be improved, but you finally accept that it's complete, that you've said everything you wanted to say. You call the curator to let them know that the work is ready to be picked up. When he comes to see her, he is silent for several minutes, simply absorbing what you have created. It's extraordinary, he finally says, exactly what we expected, and at the same time, completely unexpected. His words fill you with pride and relief. You have fulfilled the commission. You have honored the trust they placed in you. The exhibition, Michelangelo, Living Legacy, opens with great fanfare. There are speeches by Vatican dignitaries, art historians, curators. Your new work takes center stage in the exhibition, along with your previous painting of Michelangelo working in the Sistine Chapel. Visitors stop in front of them, fascinated by the visual conversation you've created between past and present. You listen to snippets of his comments as you discreetly pass through the crowd. Extraordinary technique. What an original concept. Look how he has captured the light, exactly as Michelangelo would. Each compliment moves you, makes you feel that you have achieved what you set out to do, to establish a bridge through time, to honor the legacy of the master, while affirming your own artistic voice. Professor Bianchi finds you in the crowd, holding your arm affectionately. "I'm so proud of you," he says in an excited voice. "You've accomplished something truly special here." It takes you to a quieter corner, away from the hustle and bustle of the front desk. From his pocket, he takes out a small object wrapped in tissue paper. "I want to show you something," he says, carefully unwrapping the package. It's a piece of charcoal, old and worn, strikingly similar to the one Michelangelo gave you in your dream. This was found during the restoration of the Sistine Chapel in the 80s, he explains. It was in a small cavity in one of the scaffolding, probably forgotten there by Michelangelo himself. My father worked on that restoration and managed to keep this small souvenir. He gave it to me before he died. You stare at the charcoal in amazement, unable to speak. The professor continues, when I saw your first painting, with Michelangelo working on the ceiling, I noticed something strange. The piece of charcoal he was holding in his hand, it was identical to this one, a detail so small, so specific, that no one else would have noticed. I wondered how you could have known, how you could have painted something that so few people have seen. He looks at you with curiosity, but also with understanding. You don't need to explain it to me. Some mysteries are best left as they are. I just wanted you to know that I saw him, that I recognized that impossible connection that you've somehow made with him. You are speechless, moved by this moment of recognition, this confirmation that your experience, as impossible as it may seem, has any kind of validity in the real world. The professor wraps the charcoal again and puts it in his pocket. He would be proud, she says simply, before walking away to join the conversation with other guests. You stand there, processing what just happened. Somehow, the circle has come full circle. Your connection to Michelangelo, which began with a dream and a piece of charcoal that crossed the barrier between worlds, has been recognized by someone who understands, who does not need rational explanations to accept the extraordinary. That evening, after the reception is over and the guests have left, the curator offers you an exceptional privilege to stay alone in the showroom for a few minutes. I think you've earned it, he says with a knowing smile. He drops you off there, promising to be back in 15 minutes. The room is silent, lit only by the dim lights that highlight the artworks. Your new painting, with its two realities merging in the center, seems to shine with its own light. You approach it, observing the details you worked on so meticulously, the wood grain on the Renaissance scaffolding, the pigment powder suspended in a beam of light, the wrinkles on the hands of the artist of the past. And then you feel it, a presence by your side, so real you could almost touch it. You don't dare to look directly, but in your peripheral vision, you catch the silhouette of a robust man with a graying beard and strong hands stained with paint. You got it, says a harsh voice with a Tuscan accent. It's not about me or you. It's about the work, the connection, the flame that passes from one hand to the other. You want to answer, but the words get stuck in your throat. When you finally turn around, you're alone in the room. And yet, you know you didn't imagine it. Somehow, through time and space, Michelangelo has seen your work, has recognized your tribute, has completed the circle of inspiration and recognition that began with your dream. The curator returned, finding you motionless in front of your painting. Are you okay? He asks, noticing your expression. You nod, unable to explain what has just happened. I'm just processing everything, you finally say. He smiles, understanding. It's a lot to take in. Your career has taken off in an extraordinary way this last year. As he escorts you to the exit, you pass by the entrance of the Sistine Chapel, which is closed at this time. You stop for a moment, looking at the doors. You know, the curator says, following your gaze, sometimes, when I'm alone here at night, I would swear I can hear someone working in there. The rubbing of brushes, murmurs, even occasional curses. He looks at you with a wry smile. Old buildings have their ghosts, I guess. You go out into the Roman night with a sense of fulfillment that you've never experienced before. The stars shine on the dome of St. Peter's. The fountains murmur their aquatic secrets. Stray cats glide through ancient shadows. This city has witnessed so much. Emperors and popes, artists and saints, ordinary people living their lives in the shadow of grandeur. And now, you are part of its history, a small thread in the great tapestry of Rome. Your encounter with Michelangelo, whatever actually happened, has given you a place in that continuity, a connection to the past that informs your present and will shape your future. In the months and years that follow, your career continues to flourish. You exhibit in major galleries around the world, publish books about your work, lecture to knowledge-hungry art students. Your style evolves, as it should, but it always maintains that special connection with tradition, that dialogue with the masters of the past that began that extraordinary night. Michelangelo's charcoal fragment has been reduced to almost nothing, but you keep it in its small box, a tangible reminder of the intangible. And every morning, without fail, you start your day with drawing, feeding the flame, as the master taught you. Sometimes, in the early hours of the morning, when the light is clear and your mind is fresh, you feel his presence close to you. It is not something supernatural or mystical. It is simply the connection that all artists share, that common language that transcends time and space. In those moments, as your hand moves over the paper, creating lines and shapes that become images, you feel a deep gratitude for the gift you received. Not just the charcoal, not just the advice, but the realization that you are part of something bigger than yourself. An eternal conversation between creators, a flame that is passed from hand to hand through the centuries, lighting the way for those who have eyes to see. And so, day after day, you continue your work, drawing, painting, creating, feeding the flame, honoring the legacy, living the advice you received in a dream that was more than a dream. It all starts with drawing. Art is like a flame that needs to be constantly fed. Words of a master through time, a bridge between past and present, a reminder that at the heart of all great art, there is dedication, perseverance, and love for the craft. And while you're working, sometimes you think you hear a rough voice with a Tuscan accent that murmurs, "Good." Now your understanding